Hello, my name is Carmen. Um, for my research project, I've chosen a subject that is dear to my heart. This is a subject that I would like to find a career in, but also I feel that the incorporation of feminism into the subject is necessary for its own progression and for the health of humanity and sustenance of life as we know it. Conservation is defined by Merriam-Webster as the careful preservation and protection of something, especially the planned management of natural resource to prevent exploitation, destruction, and neglect. So I'll be speaking about specifically conservation of the environment. And some examples of natural resources we've worked to protect range from timber to natural water resources to salmon and microscopic eels in our waterways. The idea of conservation requires looking beyond just the subject that you are trying to conserve. Smallest microorganisms in our soil play just as integral a part as the predators, such as wolves that we often deem killers, project them as evil forces and encourage their destruction. In the lower 48, we have nearly completely removed the wolf, the bison, the grizzly, and many other organisms who were once abundant. Only 5% of the original redwood forests in California exist today, and desertification threatens our farmland and arid regions every day. Historically, science and conservation have been established and dominated by white men of relatively high socioeconomic class. And as we've learned throughout this course, patriarchal ideology infiltrates all aspects of humanity, and science and conservation are no exception. I found the discourse of Evelyn Fox Keller especially compelling and fitting for my topic, and it made me realize how much my own definition of feminism and the ways in which it can impact our society has grown in this course. And prior to this course, I may have argued that simply incorporating more women and people of color into conservation organizations would bring about the changes that need to happen. But if this course has taught me anything, it's that it's never that simple. The world of conservation has changed quite a lot since the days of Teddy Roosevelt, who established the U.S. Forest Service. He established the national park system, wildlife sanctuaries across the United States, and prevented Americans from destroying some of the most crucial ecosystems in Northern America. His efforts, along with efforts of many other male conservationists, are undoubtedly important, and without them, I'm certain that the environmental health of America would be drastically lower than it currently is. But a closer look makes it hard to see these as completely selfless acts, because there are certain natural resources or environmental justices that have been overlooked. And Roosevelt was a sportsman first and foremost, as are a lot of historical conservationists. Their purpose was to preserve game, such as deer and bison, so that they could be hunted and land for heinous friends to enjoy or profit off of. And as we see more drastic effects of climate change coming into play, a new perspective in the world of conservation is vital. Recent movements, such as the Me Too and Time's Up, have spurred studies on the discrimination women in fields like conservation and environmental science may face, and they're beginning to shed light on the disparities between the two genders in these fields. This conversation has extended into the conservation community itself, and many local and regional organizations are working to not only incorporate more women into their organizations, but also look at their language. In an article from the Land Trust Alliance, one director of such an organization is quoted saying, "We're focusing on each one of us as individuals and how we may unintentionally be allowing racism and sexism to continue to exist." Organizations such as this are making intentional efforts to be more intersectional, especially in the language that they use, such as on their websites, flyers, advertisements. Low-income communities are the most severely impacted by environmental issues, and these organizations are beginning to see the importance of educating these communities, especially the youth, on just the fact that they are facing environmental injustice and how they can fight against this, and how the little things that they can do to try and help sustain their environment. Some studies have shown that greater inclusivity within organizations leads to more efficient and successful preservation of biodiversity, which encourages more studies on the reality of women's place in these organizations. Narratives in the conservation world are beginning to change, and it will be necessary for these narratives to continue to be incorporated into the conservation practices themselves in order for them to be successful. We have to become conscious of the implications of our language when speaking about nature, just as Evelyn Fox Keller said, and observe the biases towards certain organisms and the ideas which prevent the field of conservation from carefully preserving all that nature has to offer.